Hi, this is Paul Kreutz, and welcome to Halloween DIY and How-To. In this edition, I am going to show you how to create and build this animated floating phantom. Dark, mysterious, and lurking in the shadows, this ominous floating creature would be a great addition to your Halloween haunt or display. How is it done? Well, I'm going to show you how, so let's get started. Here are some of the items that you will need to create this prop. But first, since this is a companion video to the Overhead Animator, you will need one fully completed Overhead Animator with 6 stations. If you have not seen that video, please take the time to do so. It not only shows you how to build it, but also goes over some important do's and don'ts when using it to animate different props. I will list its link in the description of this video as well as at the end of this video. Since the Overhead Animator does nearly all of the work, you will just need a few other items for this prop. Those items are a piece of material approximately 54 inches by 54 inches. Like this dark, lacy material that has some weight to it. It is partially see-through with a somewhat irregular pattern. A styrofoam head with either vague or detailed facial features, whatever you prefer. A pair of life-size faux hands. There are many types to choose from. The ones that I am using are black flocked styrofoam. 2 short sections of pipe insulation, each around 7 to 8 inches long. 2 to 4 fishing weights, the type with a connection loop on it. Several S-hooks or mini-clip connectors. Stick pins. Some coat hanger wire, preferably black or dark in color. Several safety pins. Some additional black material for embellishing. Flat black acrylic paint and a permanent black magic marker. A small piece of dense cardboard, around 2 inches by 3 inches. And nylon fishing line, either clear or dark in color. This companion prop to the Overhead Animator is a close relative to the classic flying crank ghost. However, since I wanted a more ethereal and free-formed look, my version does not have any underlying armature to create its form. Here, the material acts as the armature. So where the head, shoulders, and hands are attached to the material is very important. So let's start there. Lay out your material on a flat surface. For the head's location, place a safety pin 24 inches down from the top edge of the material and at its center, so come in from either side 27 inches. Then place another safety pin 6 inches down from that pin for the nose's location. This will help you to find the front of the material later when fitting it over the styrofoam head. For the 2 shoulder locations, come in 12 inches from each side and 20 inches down from the top. Place a safety pin at each of those 2 locations. And finally, for the hands location, come in 3 inches from either side and 3 inches up from the bottom of the material. Place a safety pin at each of those 2 corners. With the material prepped, let's turn our attention to the styrofoam head. Straighten out the coat hanger wire with a pliers. You will need a few inches longer than the height of the head. Starting at the top center of the head, push the wire all the way through until it comes out at the bottom. On that end of the wire, bend a U with 90-degree angles by using a pliers. Cut the small piece of cardboard or something similar the same width as the inside width of the wire U. Place the small piece of cardboard flat to the neck area. Then pull the wire tight against the bottom of the neck. This will help ensure that the wire will not pull out of the styrofoam head. Leave yourself 1 inch of wire coming out of the top of the head and use the pliers to cut off the rest of the wire. Use a needle nose pliers and curl this end of the wire into a small loop. Make sure that this loop is very close, if not flush, with the surface of the head. This is where the fishing line will be attached. Next, to highlight certain sections of the head's face, use the flat, black paint on the eye sockets, nose, and mouth, or however you wish to embellish the face. When the paint is dry, black material can then be strategically placed to downplay the rest of the head. Use straight pins to hold that material in place. Make sure you cut a hole in the material, exposing the wire loop at the top of the head. With the head prepped, let's now turn our attention to the hands. The hands will need both a place to tie the fishing line to and somewhat of a forearm. Using a pliers and coat hanger wire, I fashioned 2 large staples, each with a loop at its middle. The loop is bent up at a 90-degree angle. This is the attachment location for the fishing line. Push one of the staples into the wrist section of each hand. Make sure that the loop is located on the top side of the wrist. The hands that I am using came with dowels already attached at the wrists. To create the forearms, glue was placed on the dowels before sliding the short piece of pipe insulation over them. If using a glue gun, place the hot glue on the dowel first before sliding the insulation over it. This will help to keep the pipe insulation from over-melting. When the glue has cooled, cut back some of the foam at the wrist to create a smooth transition from the newly created forearm to the hand. Remember, you only need to create the impression of arms. Let the draped material do the rest. We are now ready to connect the Phantom to the animator. Make sure that the animator is securely fastened overhead at the location that you want the Phantom to be at. Position the animator so that one of its stations is located at the back center. This station loop will be reserved for the Phantom's head. Also make sure that this station is in the fully up position. The station loops to the right and left of the head's loop will be for the shoulders, and the 2 station loops next to those will be for the arms. The remaining front station directly across from the head's loop will not be used. Placing fishing weights on it will help to counteract the weight of the head. On each of the other loops, place a connector. Using a ladder or stepping stool, start the assembly and attachment of the Phantom to the animator by loosely tying one end of a length of fishing line to the connector on the head's loop. Be sure to leave yourself extra fishing line on this end to make adjustments later. Push the other end of the fishing line through the material at the pre-marked head's location. Securely tie the fishing line around the coat hanger wire loop on top of the styrofoam head. Drape the material over the head and position it so that the marked location of the nose is lined up with the nose on the head. If need be, adjust the length of the fishing line up at the connector before securely tying it off. When doing this, keep in mind that this will be the highest location of the Phantom's head while the animator is working. Next, one by one, repeat this process for the shoulder locations using a fishing weight under the material at each shoulder. Adjust the height of each shoulder up at the connector as it relates to the head and as to your preference. However, only loosely tie off the fishing line at the connector so that you can make final adjustments when all the components of the Phantom are attached. Repeat this process for the hands. When positioning the hands under the material, make sure that you have the right and left hand on the correct side before tying them off. Position the material so that the corner of the material falls evenly on the top of each hand, and that equal amounts of material fall on either side of the forearm. If need be, adjust the fishing line lengths at the shoulder and arm connectors before securely tying off the fishing line. You can now remove the safety pin markers. You may want to make small adjustments to the material on the head so that its pattern works well with the facial features of the styrofoam head. Also adjust the way the material is draped over the hands and arms. When happy with how it looks, hold the material in place with stick pins. If you would like, now is when you can embellish the look of the Phantom with some additional material. At this point, the only thing left to do is to help hide the fishing line by running a black magic marker over them. I hope that you will enjoy both building and displaying this floating Phantom. Please have a safe, fun, and family-friendly Halloween. Thanks for watching.